And so the story of the elderly childless couple, Zachariah and Elizabeth, continues. Let's remember what Luke says of them. He says that they were both lovers of God, living virtuously and following the commandments of the Lord fully. But they were childless since Elizabeth was barren, and now they were both quite old. But one day, while Zachariah's priestly order was on duty and he was serving as priest, it happened by the casting of lots according to the custom of the priesthood, that the honor fell upon Zachariah to enter into the holy place and burn incense before the Lord. Now, a large crowd of worshippers had gathered to pray outside the temple at the hour when incense was being offered. And all at once, an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing just to the right of the altar of incense. Now, Zachariah was startled and overwhelmed with fear, but the angel reassured him, saying, "Don't be afraid, Zachariah. God is showing grace to you, for I have come to tell you that your prayer for a child has been answered. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you are to name him John. His birth will bring you much joy and gladness. Many will rejoice because of him. He will be one of the great ones in the sight of God." Now, do you know what John's name means? It can be translated, God is gracious, or God shows mercy. Now, I'm sure that I've known that fact in the past, but it's the sort of information I forget when I don't see its relevance. So I had to be reminded of it because in learning this passage, the question was thrown up, why was God so specific about John's name? I mean, why wasn't he called Elijah or Malachi, which I think would be more appropriate, or Tim? So I had to remind myself that John means God is gracious or God shows mercy. And then in the context of the passage, I suddenly saw its relevance. John's name is expressing what God is doing. He's showing his mercy to the world. He's finally putting his salvation plan into action. God's mercy and grace is about to burst upon the world in a new and radical and longed-for way. And of course, this is so personally demonstrated to Elizabeth and Zachariah. The angel says, "For I've come to tell you that your prayer for a child has been answered." Now, this sentence could also be translated from the Greek as the prayer you no longer pray. I mean, can you imagine how much Zachariah prayed all through Elizabeth's childbearing years? Can you imagine the tears that couple must have cried? The deep pain of being childless in an age when the number of children you had was everything, when to be childless meant you must be being punished, and all the shame and disgrace that came with that. You know, this worn-out prayer had not been answered for the duration of Elizabeth's natural childbearing life. And Zachariah had understandably given up praying it. And yet God in his grace saw them, and he poured out his mercy upon them, and he granted them the answer to the prayer that they no longer prayed. A truly miracle baby. And it strikes me that there's something here about longed-for answers to prayer that I'd like to understand more fully. What does this say to me about some of the things that I've longed for what can feel like a lifetime, which in the natural I see no evidence of change in, like health in place of sickness for one of my children, or restoration of a painful relationship that still hurts, or a longed-for spouse for a friend who's still unmarried, or perhaps even the hidden parts of my heart that struggle with rejection and anger, and just when I think I've kicked them and dealt with it, they get triggered all over again. This passage speaks of something about God's faithfulness in the face of those kind of things that I'd really like to grasp more fully. And it speaks of something about his timing that doesn't always feel comfortable, but it is always perfect. And my prayer is that we would all grasp a deeper understanding of God's profound faithfulness and mercy, even in the face of unanswered prayers that we no longer pray. That we would know that he is good and that his mercy abounds. And although his timing may sometimes seem totally off, he sees us just as he saw Elizabeth and Zachariah. And he says to us, don't be afraid, for I have come to tell you. Amen.